Cops and other law enforcement officers tell us about cases where you felt something supernatural or paranormal was happening. I'm a former EMT firefighter. One night, we got a call to check on a person's health, someone who had called 911 but wasn't answering the operator. We arrived at the address, the house was odd, and a little old lady greeted us at the door. We asked her if she knew who had called 911, but she said she'd been living alone since her husband died. We barely got back to the station when we got another call, same address. We went back, talked to the old lady again, and left. As soon as we get back to the station, the same call again, same address, and no answer. We go back again, thinking the old lady was a bit loopy, but this time, when we pulled up to the door, the old lady wasn't on the porch anymore. We rang the doorbell, no answer. Turned out the door wasn't locked. We peeked inside and saw the grandma lying on the floor, not breathing. We immediately performed first aid and took her to the hospital. She was in stable condition. Waking up in the ambulance, she still insisted that she hadn't called us and that we had arrived almost immediately after she lost consciousness. It's a 15-minute drive from the station to her house. Before we took her to the hospital, she asked me and another EMT if we could bring her knitting needles and some clothes to the hospital. I said I'd pick up her things because I had a friend in the area I was going to meet anyway. So, I pick up my friend and we go to the grandma's house. I ran into the house to get the bag of things and the needles while my friend stayed in the car. And as soon as I was coming out of the house, I swear I felt someone's hand on my back and heard a voice saying thank you. When I got back to the car, my friend asked why the grandma's husband couldn't bring her things to the hospital himself. I said her husband was dead, to which my friend replied, "Then who was that old man in the window who smiled and waved at me?" I initially refused to believe in anything supernatural, so I called the police and asked them to search the house. I thought someone had broken into her house. They didn't find anything unusual and no one was inside. Later, my friend and I went to visit the grandma. He started describing the old man who was standing in the window, but the old lady, without letting him continue, immediately started sobbing and said, "That's my Harold." I'm literally tearing up through the fear right now. It's easy to deny ghost stories until some shit like that happens to you personally. I'm an EMT. One day, we were called to a local shopping center. We arrived and it turned out an 8-year-old girl was having trouble breathing. It was late at night and her mother, aunt, and cousin had just been caught stealing. We assumed the breathing problems were caused by stress. As soon as we got into the ambulance, the girl looked my partner and me in the eyes and said that the place where she lives is bad. She said she lives surrounded by demons, and I swear to God, as soon as she said demons, within seconds her pulse dropped from 90 to 45 beats per minute. My partner and I looked at each other and immediately started trying to defuse the situation. Eventually, the girl came to. I will never forget this case. Edited. As soon as we stabilized her, of course, we immediately reported everything to the police. Not my story, but when I read it, I was pretty freaked out. An old lady called 911 and asked for some police officers to come to her house because she saw a strange figure hiding in her backyard. She lived alone and felt in danger that night after seeing someone's silhouette in the window. When the police arrived, the door was unlocked. They entered the house, saw the grandma sitting facing the window, and went to check the backyard. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing was missing. There was a high fence around the house, making it virtually impossible for anyone to enter the property. However, the cops found footprints inside the house. It's quite possible that she left the door unlocked and saw someone not outside through the window, but in their reflection inside the house, behind her. I was in Afghanistan, standing guard duty. Suddenly, I turned towards the farm field and saw a huge panther there. This creature looked like it was 10 meters long. My heart started pounding like crazy. I was about to report to my comrades on the radio when I realized I needed to adjust the depth perception on the night vision goggles. After that, I immediately saw a normal cat 40 centimeters or so, sitting on the ledge of the guard booth. Best day of the cat's life. Basically, I once scared a Marine shitless. Yeah, guys, it was a fun day and, apparently, the funniest moment in my life. But maybe, except for the time I dropped a hairball into his coffee mug or when I knocked the grenades off the table. Yeah, that was fun too. I'm a firefighter paramedic. One late summer night, we went on a call to the countryside. My partner and I were driving along a winding 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere. No lighting except for headlights and the moon. We come to a sharp right turn, and I suddenly see a man moving in the tall grass. He's moving very fast and smoothly, as if he's standing on a bicycle. His arms and torso aren't bouncing or moving up and down like when running. So, I kind of spaced out and got confused seeing a guy in the middle of the night slicing through the grass on a bike. But whatever. Then he approaches a tree and stops. About that time, we pass by him. I look out the window and see him standing next to the tree, without a bike or anything else. He's just standing there looking at the truck passing by. My hair stood on end. We keep driving and I decide to ask my partner if he saw that guy. His answer, dude, I thought I was losing my mind. This incident is very difficult to explain. And yeah, maybe it was just a coincidence, but I still never tell my colleagues about it. For a while, I worked as a homicide investigator. We handled all suspected suicides, investigating them to make sure it wasn't murder. Usually, we'd identify a motive for the suicide and find a note or other indication that the person had taken their own life. For example, one guy just taped a note to his chest that said, "Are you happy now, bitch?" and arranged it so that his wife would find him after he hanged himself. But sometimes there are cases where all the evidence points to suicide, but there's no note or discernible reason why the person would commit suicide. These people are in good health, have decent jobs, and, at first glance, happy family lives. But who knows what's really going on with people? Now, I'll tell you about the case that still gives me the shivers. In my career, there were about 10 suicides where the motive was unclear. In the last 3 such cases, I found the same thing at the scene. It was a small decorative woven lighthouse, which was found in all the locations. The same lighthouse with the same design, it was painted white and blue. The first time, it caught my attention because I was standing by the bed where the body was lying. But 2 weeks later, I saw the same freaking lighthouse at another suicide, and even mentioned the coincidence to the patrol officer. A few months later, I went to investigate another suicide, and saw the same woven lighthouse. It clicked in my head that these were always the inexplicable suicides. I went back to the station and started looking at all the photos from the scenes of every suicide I worked on. In 2 of them, I saw in the photo what might be this woven lighthouse, but the angle of the photo was bad, and there was too much stuff around to be sure. I don't know, guys, it seemed pretty creepy to me, but a couple of months later, I transferred and stopped thinking about it. Edited. Are you asking if it was a serial killer? You know, I really doubt it. These were all obvious suicides, most of which had no adequate alternative explanation. We always worked on every suicide as if it were a murder. A presumed suicide is almost always a suicide, but we always double-check anyway. Also, despite the fact that there are actually more serial killers than you think, they rarely leave calling cards or anything like that, like they usually show in the movies. Typically, it's some crazy person with a particular style. I really think it was just a strange coincidence, but it was still incredibly creepy. Buddy, you're going to wake up one night and see that decorative woven lighthouse on your bedside table. I would immediately kill myself. You should find that damn lighthouse and burn it to hell. It never occurred to me that it was the same lighthouse. I thought it was some seasonal decoration that was sold in a pottery shop. I worked in emergency medical services for a while. One day, we got a call saying that some guy was riding a bike without a helmet at a crazy speed and crashed into a car. We arrived at the